Meanwhile, in the first half of next year, there'll be another software release of Libraries Australia Search. There'll be numerous minor improvements and bug fixes. One of the features in the new release will be a copyright status feature. So for any record on the database, you'll be able to send a query to the National Library's copyright status algorithm and be returned information about whether that item is in copyright, out of copyright, or whether its copyright status is uncertain, and when it will become out of copyright and what the reason was for that status. So that's a little service that's been developed by the library, and we're going to embed it in the next release of Libraries Australia Search. Now, I'd like to just make some comments about some of the other discovery services that we have, other than Libraries Australia Search, others that the National Library is operating. And first two of these I want to address. So if we go to the next slide, the first one is about the Australian Newspapers Beta service. This is just a screenshot of what happens if you search on Railway and Goulburn. You actually get 14,000 newspaper articles related to that have those keywords in them. And it just sort of illustrates, I guess, already the amount of newspaper articles that are already in that service. It's been publicly available since late July. There are now 350,000 pages, newspaper pages, and more than 3 million articles in that service. I think we have every year, somewhat, at least in one newspaper or another, we're covering every year already from 1803 to 1954. We're allowing users to add tags, add comments, and correct the OCR text. And remarkably, in only 3 months of operation, over 500,000 lines of OCR text have been corrected by people out there, including one person who has single-handedly corrected over 50,000 lines of OCR text, and sometimes at all times of the night. So there are some real keen users of the Australian Newspapers Beta service out there. If you haven't used it, even if you don't want to become a fanatic text corrector, if you haven't actually used the service to search, information about your own family history or whatever other interests you have, I would encourage you to look at it. Another thing we did during the year was to renovate the Arrow Discovery service that was sponsored by the Arrow Project and actually provides a national single point of search for the contents of university repositories. This screenshot is an example of a search on climate change, and it returns you 1,271 pieces of Australian research from 19 different universities that deal with climate change. There are now a total of, I think, 230,000 records in that discovery service from, I think, around about 30 universities. This service also runs on Lucene, like the newspaper service, and in general we are moving towards moving our services off TerraText and onto Lucene. And the other thing to say about the Arrow Discovery service is that we are harvesting the data every day from university repositories, and we're actually normalising some of the differences in the data standards between the repositories at the time we harvest. Couple of other things to say about our other discovery services. There have recently been some changes to Music Australia. The partnership arrangement we had with Destra Media has come to a close. Destra Media was taken over by Prime and is withdrawing from a lot of its services, and so we're no longer able to provide an e-commerce link to Destra for purchasing of audio tracks that are in Music Australia. We have, however, retained access to cover art and the 30-second sound clips, so that still provides some enhancement of information about more contemporary Australian music. And we will be investigating alternative and more flexible arrangements with multiple suppliers of online music data for future solution to the e-commerce issue. The major thing to say here is our overall strategy of where we're going in the future with search, and that is to integrate all of our discovery services through the Single Business Discovery Project, as we're calling it, a project that commenced in late August this year. I did speak about this at some length at last year's forum, and so there isn't really time to go into it in great detail now, But there is going to be the Libraries Australia Advisory Committee papers, I think, will be up on our website soon. And there's a lengthy paper in there about this project. We will be in touch with you and also through user groups about it. The next slide is rather dense, and you can't really read it. You're not really meant to read it, but you're meant to notice the kind of islands of information. And this is just a mock-up slide as to what we might be trying to achieve through this project. It's developed by the project team. It's an example of a search, happens to be a search on Peter Hollingworth, but what happens is that you are returned, first of all, a set of information about the books and other text materials like journals and titles and so on that are in the NBD. You get another set of information with pictures, both pictures from Picture Australia and pictures that have not been digitised but are on the NBD. You'll get information linking you to, if it's a person that's the subject of the search, linking to where you can find biographical information about that person, information in Wikipedia, information in other biographical services, newspaper articles if they exist, websites, so it's basically searching Pandora for you and bringing back websites that are in scope for your search. Scholarly output that might be results coming from the Arrow, what's currently called the Arrow Discovery Service, perhaps theses on the NBD as well in that space, and so on. All of the information that we can provide in response to that query through all of the different services that we're currently running as separate silo applications, we want to bring them together, and we want to not only have structured metadata but full text information wherever possible. And our goal is to extend the amount of full text by incorporating digitised or freely available digitised books and out of copyright digitised books into this corpus of information, this national metadata store. So that's a quick mention of that really important strategic development for us. I just wanted to say in finishing, if you want to read more detail about what happened during 2007-8, the annual report is now available on the Libraries Australia website, and as I mentioned, the papers of the advisory committee will also provide additional information. Our understanding is we're not going to have questions now. We're going to break for afternoon tea, and I will happily answer questions about my presentation after afternoon tea, and we're also going to deal with questions on notice and questions that you have supplied. So thank you, and we'll break for afternoon tea now.